Today we are very excited to welcome the Indiana Fever to our Level 4 NICU so that our tiniest patients and their families get the chance to meet these wonderful individuals.
Hi, Caitlin, nice to meet you.
That is probably the most special moment that has ever happened.
A 10-year-old diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, Sophie's life had become a battle of doctor's appointments and treatments. Despite the challenges, she remained determined to help her family, setting up a humble lemonade stand to raise money for her medical bills. Her bright spirit and courage caught the attention of the local community.
And now they're raising money to donate to the hospital that helped save her life. And they're also helping other children diagnosed with her daughter's same disease.
But soon, it reached someone even more unexpected. What did basketball star Caitlin Clark do for Sophie that would change everything and offer hope when she needed it most? Join us as we uncover the details behind what Caitlin did that left everyone speechless. Sophie's lemonade stand. Sophie was known for her infectious smile and her heart full of love. She was a bright 10-year-old with long chestnut hair that framed her face perfectly, her blue eyes sparkling with the curiosity and joy that seemed so typical of childhood. But unlike most children her age, Sophie had already learned the hard way that life was fragile. At just 10 years old, she was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL, a form of blood cancer that would force her to undergo grueling chemotherapy treatments and spend more time in hospitals than any child should. But that's not all. The chemotherapy was harsh.
It's very, very special. The type of leukemia that she has is very aggressive, so the chemotherapy was very aggressive.
Wearing down her body and draining her energy. Sophie's once active, playful days were now replaced by endless doctor visits, hospital stays, and treatments. She found herself often feeling weak, nauseous, and isolated, a stark contrast to the lively girl she had been just a year before. But despite the relentless physical and emotional toll cancer had taken on her, Sophie never allowed herself to feel entirely defeated. Her spirit remained unbroken, while her parents, who both worked tirelessly to make ends meet, struggled with the mounting medical bills. Sophie refused to let them carry that burden alone. She wanted to help. She wanted to contribute in whatever way she could, even though she was just a child. One day, after another long hospital stay, Sophie came up with an idea that, while small, felt like the most important thing she could do. A lemonade stand. Sophie had seen people in her neighborhood set up stands before, selling lemonade, cookies, and treats on hot summer days. The sight of those stands, so full of life and joy, had always made her smile. But now, for Sophie, it was more than just a fun summer activity. The lemonade stand would be her way of helping pay for the treatments that were keeping her alive.
Tonight, a community turning lemons into lemonade. Neighbors in Westford are trying to raise money for the medical care that a little girl desperately needs.
And they're doing it one glass at a time.
Lemonade for Sophie, the sign read, with bold, colorful letters that Sophie had carefully painted herself. Fighting cancer with a smile. Her parents were hesitant at first. They didn't want Sophie to push herself too hard, and they knew the stand wouldn't raise nearly enough to cover the overwhelming costs of her chemotherapy treatments. But Sophie's determination was strong. She insisted on giving it a try. And so, with the help of her family, Sophie set up her lemonade stand on the sidewalk in front of their home. It wasn't much, just a small folding table, a pitcher of lemonade, and a few cups. But for Sophie, it was a symbol of her strength. As she poured lemonade for the neighbors who stopped by, she smiled at each person with the same bright optimism. Some of the customers were familiar faces from the neighborhood. Others were strangers who had heard about Sophie's stand through word of mouth. Each person who came to buy a cup was greeted by Sophie's radiant smile, and in return, they shared their support and love. Neighbors gathered behind her, many leaving donations far beyond the price of a cup of lemonade, touched by the young girl's bravery and spirit. Word spread quickly, and soon, Sophie's stand became a local sensation. But Sophie wasn't concerned with the attention. It wasn't about the money or recognition.
When life gives you lemons, make lemonade, and that's exactly what soon-to-be 5th grader Lila Simons did with her lemonade stand, and now she's pouring back into her community.
What mattered most was that she was doing something, anything, to help ease the financial strain on her family. As the days passed, Sophie's lemonade stand became a regular fixture in the neighborhood. Every time she poured a cup, her hands shook a little less. She felt a little stronger every time someone bought a lemonade. The kindness she received from her community filled her heart with the warmth and love that cancer had tried to take from her. But no matter how much money the stand raised, Sophie knew the road ahead was long, and the treatments would be far from cheap. The financial burden weighed on her family, and though they tried to keep it from Sophie, she could sense the stress in her parents' eyes. Her mom, struggling to balance work with caring for Sophie, looked exhausted every day, her shoulders heavy with the pressure of making ends meet. Sophie's dad did his best to keep their spirits up, but even he couldn't hide the worry in his eyes. Sophie could see how hard they were trying to protect her from the harsh realities of their situation. But deep down, she understood. That's why the lemonade stand meant so much to her. It was her way of helping them carry the weight, even if just a little. Sophie had no idea that her lemonade stand would soon become the spark for something far bigger than she ever imagined. She never expected that someone like Caitlin Clark, a famous basketball player whom she had admired from afar, would one day step into her life in the most unexpected way. But sometimes, life has a way of surprising us.
It's fun to come to games that you can watch, and it hopefully inspires you to play better or practice more, see how they play.
The unexpected encounter. Caitlin Clark, widely known for her unmatched basketball talent, had spent much of her offseason picking up a new hobby, golf. But this was not the only change in Caitlin's life. She had also been hard at work with her charity, the Caitlin Clark Foundation, which focused on supporting youth and families in need. Recently, Caitlin had been involved in a significant fundraising campaign with Gainbridge's Parity Week program, which had contributed a generous $22,000 donation to her foundation. The timing was perfect. Caitlin, while preparing to participate in the LPGA's Annika Pro-Am event, was in town and had taken some time off from her rigorous sports schedule to visit a local hospital to personally donate the funds from her charity. It was an important gesture, one that Caitlin felt deeply connected to, as she knew how much her support could mean to those struggling. Her visit to the hospital was meant to deliver the donation, but it was about to become so much more. As Caitlin walked through the halls of the children's wing, where many young patients were battling their own battles, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of compassion and responsibility. As Caitlin made her way to the donation desk, her attention was drawn to a small group gathered around a lemonade stand just outside the hospital's entrance. She noticed a young girl, Sophie, standing behind the stand, bright-eyed and determined. Her sign read, "Lemonade for Sophie, fighting cancer with a smile."
I'm gonna give you guys $1,000, okay? So that you guys can reach your goal to go to the game. How's that?
Thank you.
Curious, Caitlin approached the stand. She could feel the warmth of the community surrounding Sophie's effort. The lemonade stand, though modest, was a testament to the young girl's fighting spirit. Caitlin learned from a nurse nearby that Sophie had been diagnosed with leukemia and was currently undergoing chemotherapy treatments. Her family was struggling to keep up with the high medical costs, and Sophie had taken matters into her own hands by setting up the stand. Sophie was taken aback when Caitlin Clark approached her stand. She had never imagined someone like Caitlin would even notice her little corner of the world. Caitlin, with her ever-present kindness, smiled at Sophie and introduced herself. Sophie stood frozen, unsure of what to say, her emotions bubbling up inside her. Caitlin didn't give her a chance to respond, instead telling her how inspired she was by Sophie's courage. After buying a lemonade, Caitlin took the time to chat with Sophie and her family, expressing how much it meant to her to see someone so young showing such resilience. As the conversation went on, Caitlin couldn't help but feel that there was more she could do for Sophie. As the visit continued, Caitlin learned more about Sophie's ongoing battle with cancer and the financial strain it had put on her family. Though Sophie's lemonade stand was raising some money, Caitlin knew it wouldn't be enough to fully cover her treatments.
Special lemonade stands will be set up all across the country like this one. The goal is to raise money for children diagnosed with cancer.
It was then that Caitlin made a decision that would change everything for Sophie. Caitlin, remembering the $22,000 donation she had received through Gainbridge's Parity Week, immediately felt that the funds could do so much more than just sit in her foundation's account. She offered to cover Sophie's entire treatment plan, using the funds to make sure that Sophie and her family would no longer have to worry about the mounting medical bills. Caitlin's gesture was not just one of charity, it was a lifeline. As word spread about Caitlin's incredible act of kindness, the hospital staff and the local community were in awe. Sophie's parents, who had been overwhelmed with the financial burden, could hardly believe the generosity they had received. Sophie, though shy and still processing the enormity of the situation, felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and hope. The funds Caitlin had donated covered not only Sophie's current treatments, but also allowed her family to focus on her recovery without the constant worry of medical expenses. Sophie's lemonade stand, which had started out as a small, hopeful gesture, had turned into something much greater, thanks to Caitlin's intervention. What began as Sophie's determination to help herself and her family had blossomed into a nationwide story of compassion and community. Sophie's journey was far from over, but now she had one less thing to worry about. With Caitlin's support, she knew she could continue her treatment and focus on getting better. Sophie's parents, overwhelmed with emotion, were able to breathe a sigh of relief knowing they didn't have to sacrifice more than they already had. So, what can we take from this? What do you think about what Caitlin Clark did for Sophia? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.
120 bikers came to this English girl's rescue after she was bullied at school. 16-year-old Shannons who suffers from bowel disease and arthritis, missed her prom after she says her classmates made fun of her illnesses.
While high school years are meant to be an exciting period in the lives of our young ones, it is sadly filled with terror for some, thanks to the work of bullies. In this truly touching story, we find a young girl who would have never made it to prom because she was too terrified of bullying. But then, the unimaginable happened when Caitlin Clark knocked on her door, creating a moment that changed her life forever. So, who is this girl? And what was her story before Caitlin Clark found her? Join us as we unravel the touching story, the bullies closing in.
Most prom nights were canceled this year, but not this one. Students at Abraxas High School in Poway danced the night away.
Most youngsters talk about prom night with so much excitement because this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that should by no means be taken for granted. Although her case was peculiar, Shannon Persifer shared this ideology with her peers, at least until her hopes came crashing down in recent times. Shannon's mother, Claire, could swear that trouble was brewing in her daughter's world when, on one fateful day, Shannon had returned home from school looking unusually down and greatly downcast emotionally. Her sadness could not be hidden because it wasn't the usual vibrant energy she was known for. The overall situation was quite depressing for Claire, as she could almost touch the sadness dripping off her daughter. It nearly gave Claire a heart attack, as she was indeed a loving mother who only wanted to see a smile on the face of her child, who had had a difficult life for most of everything. At that moment, talking was the only option, because Claire knew that that was the only way to find out what the problem was. So what she did was quite touching. Claire was quick and gentle, giving her daughter a hug, which she filled with as much warmth as possible. The hug reminded her daughter of how much she loved her. "What is the matter?" she asked Shannon, who was obviously fighting hard to repress her emotions. As you would expect from a strong bond between mother and daughter over the years, Shannon finally opened up to her mother. According to her, she had been bullied once again at school. To crown it all, she had been verbally and physically assaulted by people who were supposed to be her peers. This painful information seemed to fill Claire's heart with many needle piercings. However, little did she know that the worst was yet to come. Without Claire expecting it, Shannon made a shocking announcement that changed the tone of everything. She wasn't mincing words when she informed her mother that she was no longer going to prom.
Prom, stories of kindness. But what makes this so different is that Rachel wasn't trying to be kind.
In fact, when she posted the video and strangers started commenting that she was this amazing, incredible young lady with a very good heart,
the news was indeed heart-shattering for Claire. This is because the event in question was greatly anticipated by both mother and daughter. It was just like yesterday when Shannon arrived home a few weeks ago, excitedly breaking the news of her upcoming prom, which was around the corner. She was excited about attending the event then and was sure she wouldn't miss it for anything. On Claire's part, she was equally excited for her daughter. Lovingly cupping her daughter's face in her hands, she informed her that it would be the most magical day of her life. Following this, Claire was too excited to sit on the information Shannon had given her. Like every loving mother, she wanted to do everything possible to ensure the day was magical for her daughter. So Claire did not find it burdensome. She soon got busy going shopping for the perfect dress for her daughter. Thus, after scrambling through a couple of boutiques, she finally arrived at the perfect one, where she found the perfect white dress after a long search. Joy welled up in her heart as she could already imagine Shannon in the dress, looking like the princess she was. The dress was not without a high cost. As a matter of fact, it had a weighty price tag of about £470, but Claire bought it wishing to give her daughter the best. When she arrived home, she excitedly presented the dress to Shannon, who was joyful. Shannon was excited and could not wait to try on the dress. In the few minutes for her to fit into the white dress, both mother and daughter were shocked by what they saw. The dress was perfect, dripping off Shannon's body elegantly. It was far better than what Claire had envisioned, and they could only imagine how beautiful Shannon would be on her big day, which was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The situation was truly emotional for the mother and daughter, so Claire decided to capture it on camera without letting go of the moment's magic. She quickly asked her daughter to take different postures while she snapped away. Shannon happily obliged, agreeing with her mother's station to freeze the moment in time. Unknown to her, a day would come when all this happiness would be washed away. It didn't take long for Claire to start noticing changes in her daughter's mood in the days following each time she came back from school. The decline of Shannon's enthusiasm was sadly progressive, and it soon became a point of concern for Claire. Bullying of Shannon was not a new phenomenon to start with.
Shannon has gone from being the victim of bullying to the defender of those getting bullied.
Shannon's life has never been easy due to some health conditions that plagued her life. She was only 16 years old at the moment. Still, ever since she was born, she had suffered from various illnesses, including rheumatoid arthritis, bowel disease, celiac, and ulcerative colitis. These were so much for a 16-year-old to bear, but life only got worse for Shannon. At school, she had to grapple with the harsh realities of bullying from her peers. Sadly for Shannon, some of her peers who were these bullies did not hesitate to pick on her, owing to her health conditions, making life as miserable as possible for Shannon. But Shannon was a strong girl. Amidst the turbulence, she found solace in a few friends who genuinely cared about her. So, when it was time for prom, while everyone spoke excitedly about the magical night, Shannon decided to open up to her friends. Here, she shared her excitement about prom, telling her friends about the beautiful dress her mother had gotten her. But she wasn't aware of the doom about to come upon her. Sadly, her words did not just fall upon her friends' ears, but also on the ears of her bullies, and they didn't let it slide. Ruthlessly, Shannon's bullies took the opportunity to take advantage of Shannon again, tearing her down with their words while also causing her physical pain. By the time they were done, there was nothing left of Shannon's already low self-esteem, and that was the end of her dreams that she would have a normal prom like anybody else.
It's prom season. That means it's time for students to dress in their best and show the world what they're made of.
Here, Shannon knew that even if she attended prom, things would still go badly, as her bullies would by no means let her be. For Shannon, she only wanted peace and wanted to prioritize her mental health. So, she opted to hide away from the nasty reach of her bullies. To do this effectively, Shannon even had to change her phone number in a bid to protect herself from the bullies who still tried to creep into her private spaces. So, when the big day arrived, it was clear that Shannon would not be a part of it. On the other hand, Claire was filled with sadness that knew no bounds. She had also anticipated the coming of this day like it was her own prom night. She wanted her daughter to experience the magic of prom as she had done in her own time, a desire every normal mother would want for their daughters. But it was now clear that her dreams for Shannon would not come true, and it tore her apart. As for the dress that she bought for her daughter with so much hope, it now hangs in her closet, symbolizing a shared dream that would never be fulfilled. Mother and daughter had both hit rock bottom, but a shocking transformational event was underway. The miracle began when Shannon's mother decided to make a post, paying tribute to her daughter and all the sufferings she had endured. To do this, she scrolled through the pictures she had taken of her daughter in the beautiful dress she had bought for her prom night. When she selected the most outstanding, she posted them with a caption that changed everything. It might be hard to believe, but this was the turning point for Shannon and her mother. But how did this happen? The caption that changed everything. Shannon's mother's post was certainly one that not only expressed her daughter's current dilemma, but also demonstrated her love for her daughter. Here, the first part of the caption simply read, "If Shannon had gone to prom tonight, she would have worn this beautiful dress. Thanks to the nasty, vile bullies, Shannon decided she didn't want to go." From this post, it was clear how pained Shannon's mother was. To her, something precious was snatched away from her daughter, and this was all she could do. Hence, she took the opportunity to pay tribute to her daughter further, writing genuine words that could only express so much. Claire's caption continued by saying, "For a girl that has had so much to deal with in life _celiac disease, ulcerative colitis and rheumatoid arthritis _, she is one strong young lady with an even stronger mind."
A heartbreaking look at the dangers of cyberbullying through the eyes of a grieving family. Their 12-year-old daughter took her own life after they say she was targeted by her classmates on social media.
Claire's post was short, but strong enough to carry all the necessary messages, and soon, the effect became strong in everyone who read. The story of Shannon surprisingly touched the hearts of all who heard it, with millions across the online space resonating with her experience and sending their love and support. The response to Claire's message was unprecedented. It soon grew into a rallying cry against bullying of all sorts. Claire and her mother were overwhelmed by the immense support flowing from different parts of the globe online. However, the best was yet to happen. Intriguingly, the story of Shannon soon encountered a miracle when it caught the attention of Caitlin Clark. For those who do not know, Caitlin Clark is a highly talented American college basketball player known for her exceptional scoring ability, playmaking, and leadership. She plays for the University of Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball team. She has gained national recognition for her impressive performances on the court. Clark is a dynamic point guard, celebrated for her deep-range shooting, basketball IQ, and ability to take over games with her scoring and assists, thus earning her a good place in the hearts of fans worldwide. One major reason Caitlin Clark was drawn to the story of Shannon was that she could relate to it. As a young girl gifted in basketball, Caitlin has also had to face some bullies in her growing years. Some of these tough experiences happened right on the field, with opponents trying to intimidate her out of jealousy. But through all the adversities, Clark has managed to keep her head high, putting the bullies in their place. Thus, Shannon's story deeply touched Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark did not believe that anyone should be subjected to the torture that comes with bullying. Therefore, something soon stirred her to intervene, and she did without hesitation. Caitlin Clark was quick to act. Using her influence, she therefore decided to organize an alternative prom for the lovely Shannon. She wanted to ensure that Shannon did not miss out on anything and that she had a fuller and even better prom experience. The news of Shannon's alternative prom soon spread thanks to a wide range of influence. The response from fans at this point was even more intriguing, with an online campaign taking shape. Following this, a GoFundMe page was created, and the magic began to happen with everyone pouring in their support. Everything needed for Shannon's alternative prom was readily available in no time following this.
Girls only have one prom, you can have more than one wedding, can't you? You only leave school once.
It highlighted the immense progress possible when people unite in one voice and take a united front. Shannon and her mother were grateful as they looked forward to the new date for her alternative prom. But the surprises were not over yet. The morning of Shannon's alternative prom came with numerous surprises. Shannon was already getting ready in excitement when she was halted by visitors who came knocking at the door. Shannon never expected it when she opened up, but behold, Caitlin Clark had stopped by herself with a team of makeup artists and designers who were all there for one purpose to make Shannon look her best for the occasion. Following this, they soon went straight to work, applying their skills to Shannon's nails, face, and hair. The magic created in no time was unimaginable, with Shannon completely transformed into the princess she was. Looking into the mirror, Shannon could see herself glowing in beauty. The joy she felt knew no bounds. Actually, Shannon wasn't just happy because of how beautiful she looked. Rather, she was even more related because she was receiving so much love from people who were supposed to be purely strangers. On Claire's part, her happiness was also to the roof. She found it hard to believe that her daughter was having the time of her life, even though it was happening right before their eyes. Finally, Shannon had the opportunity to wear the beautiful dress that Claire bought her, and she looked ravishing. But things were about to get more interesting. When Shannon and her mother, escorted by Caitlin Clark, stepped out of their house, they were overwhelmed by what awaited them. The crowd who came to escort Shannon to the prom venue was overwhelming, making Shannon feel close to tears of joy. In a moment of immense bliss, Shannon soon joined the crowd amidst numerous cheers and was taken to the venue of her very own prom. There, more surprises awaited her. As she tried to absorb the beautiful decor of the venue, which seemed heavenly, she was soon brought back to reality by a soft tap on her shoulder. Shannon turned only to be shocked by the presence of her boyfriend, Lee Younger, making the night even more perfect. But Shannon's boyfriend was not the only familiar face in attendance. There was also a pack of all her friends from school who genuinely cared about her. But the presence of loving strangers who cheered her on made things even more perfect. So it was finally time for Shannon to dance in that beautiful dress her mother had bought. The experience was truly intriguing for her as the multitude cheered.
Prom is one of the best things about an exchange year. It is like a school dance you do with a high school, and in my case, it was in a hotel.
Shannon also had family support, including her mother, stepdad, brothers Alex and Brandon, and Shannon's 4-year-old sister Freya, who were all present. But the highlight of the event was when Shannon was made to wear a corsage and carried the picture of her late father, Daniel Persifer. Daniel was a hero, being a Royal Naval Petty Officer who had died in Germany in 2007 at the age of 28. The honor given to Shannon's father was one she would definitely remember forever. And there was Caitlin Clark herself cheering her on. The event ended in bliss, and 18 months later, Shannon was back online to give her heartfelt gratitude to all who showed up for her. Thanks to the experience, Shannon was now an ambassador for all who faced bullying. She was now going to college, and although she still had her illnesses to battle with, she was doing so with great strength, knowing that she was loved. What do you think about Shannon's unique experience? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Also, click the following video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.
A day that started out like any other turned out to be more than what the patrons and workers of a little diner in Chicago expected it to be. You wouldn't believe what changed it so drastically. The entrance of American professional basketball player, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin made a rather dramatic entrance into a small restaurant in Chicago, and you won't believe what she did while she was there. What was a superstar like Caitlin doing at a small-time diner in Chicago? How did that encounter turn out? Come along as we journey through this inspiring story. A chance encounter. That fateful day started with the diner's usual proceedings. There were customers coming in to grab breakfast and coffee. Some got theirs to go and others took a seat to enjoy their meals. It was a small town, so most of the customers present were regulars. The owner of the diner, a young woman named Jean, was explaining to a customer that they didn't have fries available because their deep fryer was broken and they couldn't afford to repair it. The customer was disappointed. He was with his little daughter, whom he relayed the sad news to, and she was even more saddened by this. The little girl suddenly began crying, and Jean felt bad, because no matter how much her father tried to console her, she seemed to be heartbroken by the news that she couldn't have the fries she wanted. You won't believe what she did after that. She asked them to take a seat and informed the girl that she would prepare the fries for her. The little girl's face lit up like Christmas. Her father thanked Jean, and they both took a seat somewhere in the corner of the diner. Jean decided she was going to make the fries the normal way. With a frying pan and a gas cooker, she hurried to the back and began whipping up this heartfelt miracle for that little girl. She made a little amount, just enough for two, and as she came out to serve the little girl and her father, a new customer came into the diner. This customer was a tall, beautiful young woman who caught her eye. But of course, this customer caught the eye of everyone. She was hard to not notice, especially with her towering height. Jean flashed this tall young woman a smile as she took a seat by the counter, then served the little girl and her father before going back to the counter. The lady at the counter said hi and asked for a bottle of water. Jean was surprised that someone would ask for a bottle of water in a diner. She had never seen that face before, so in an attempt to make conversation, she made the comments about how she hadn't seen her before. The lady at the counter was definitely none other than Caitlin Clark. And for those of you who don't know who Caitlin Clark is, let's give you a preview. Caitlin is a professional basketball player for the Indiana Fever, which is based in Indianapolis. She is one of those players who grabs your attention the moment she steps on the basketball court. Even if you don't know much about the game, there's something about the way she plays that just pulls you in. She's the kind of athlete that makes you excited every time she touches the ball, because you know something special might happen. She played as a point guard for the Iowa Hawkeyes, where she became a force in women's college basketball. And it's not just because she scores a lot of points, though she does that better than almost anyone else. And that can be seen in her results as the NCAA's Division I all-time leading scorer. It's the way she carries herself. She is confident, fearless, and completely locked in on winning. She had a persona that just stands out. And one of the first things that must stand out for you is her shooting. She has this incredible range, where she'll pull up and take a shot from way beyond the three-point line, and more often than not, she sinks it. Her shooting style is smooth and almost effortless, making even the most difficult shots look easy. But she's not just a shooter. Caitlin is a playmaker in every sense of the word. She sees the floor like a veteran, always finding her teammates with perfectly timed passes that seem to come out of nowhere. Watching her dribble up the court, you can almost feel the defense tense up because they know she could either drive to the basket, pass for an assist, or fire up a shot from any distance. And you never know what she's going to do next. Her competitive spirit is obvious in the way she plays. There's this fiery determination in her, and it's clear that she's not just out there to score points or make highlight reel plays. She's out there to win. Every game feels personal for her, and you can see that drive in the way she pushes herself and her teammates. That leadership is a big part of why Iowa has become such a powerhouse in women's basketball. Clark makes everyone around her better. It's not just about her stats, though they're impressive. She's about the team, about getting the win, and about elevating the game as a whole. But she's not just a basketball player. Off the court, Caitlin has a huge following. It's easy to see why. She's relatable, hardworking, and genuinely seems to love the game. You can tell that she's aware of her role in inspiring young athletes, especially girls who are looking up to her as a role model. The way she handles the pressure of being in the spotlight is impressive for someone so young. Instead of shying away from it, she embraces it, knowing that she has the ability to make a real difference in the sport. Her influence has reached beyond just basketball fans, with people tuning in to watch her play, even if they aren't regular followers of women's college basketball. Her career continues to grow with the buzz around her only growing louder. She's being talked about as the future of the WNBA, and possibly one of the best women's players of all time. And here's the juicy part. She's just 22 years old. Now that you know the greatness that walked into that little diner in a town that was just as tiny in Chicago, you would be able to grasp the reaction that came next. Caitlin told Jean that she was indeed new in town, that she was passing by and was drawn to the diner. Jean was flattered by this and offered to give Caitlin her best meal ever. Caitlin laughed and agreed. She told Jean that if she could make a meal she loved that much, she would give her anything she wanted. Jean took the challenge to impress this total stranger. She went to prepare some spaghetti, and while Caitlin was sitting, waiting, and sipping her water, 3 boys walked up to her. They had been staring at her and needed to confirm for themselves. They asked, and she confirmed their suspicions that she was indeed the famed Caitlin Clark. The boys nearly lost their minds. They couldn't believe it. They asked for pictures, and she was more than happy to take pictures with them. This made the people in the diner even more curious about who she was. The boys left, looking like they had come across an angel that changed their lives forever, and soon, an old woman came to sit beside her. She helped the woman get on the chair since it was a little high. They engaged in conversation, and soon her spaghetti was ready. Jean placed the meal before her, and the old woman told her to brace herself because Jean was a great cook. She smiled and began eating, Her eyes popped open. She couldn't believe how delicious it was. When she finished the meal, she asked Jean what she wanted. As per their deal, Jean laughed and said that it wasn't necessary, and told her that she didn't even need to pay for the meal, that she just wanted to show off her cooking skills. She was being modest. Caitlin was not having it. She told Jean to ask, and Jean playfully and passively said that unless she can get her a new deep fryer or even a new set of kitchen machines, she didn't see what else she needed. The man who bought fries for his daughter came to pay and apologized for stressing Jean with the fries, especially with her deep fryer being bad. Jean didn't see it as a problem. Caitlin was inspired by the move, and you won't believe what she did next. She told Jean that she was going to get her new kitchen appliances, changing all the old ones she had, and getting ones she never even had. Jean, who still didn't know who she was, laughed at Caitlin's declaration.